لكل داء أمير رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Those are here and those are online. I apologize for starting a little late here. We have a lot to cover. We lost about 10 minutes or so, 12 minutes to see if we could make it up, inshallah ta'ala. We're on session number 8 of our class. Just a reminder from last week what we covered. We covered Salahuddin, rahimahullah, how he's dealing with Aleppo, with the emirs that were there and how they were taking custodianship or guardianship of Nur ad-Din's son, who was Ismail, right? And so they started, kicking out other emirs and they started taking over. And so Salahuddin got very concerned that the splitting of the empires are going to be happening again between Syria and Egypt. He didn't want that. Then he had Aleppo, Mosul, the Shia, the Ismailis, the assassins, Hashashin, and the Crusaders all kind of putting pressure on him, right? They're all kind of working against him. 1175, Salahuddin defeats the Zankids. He didn't really want to fight them, but they had a truce, and they just brought an army of 20,000 from Mosul and Aleppo down to Salahuddin, this place called Hama, and Salahuddin defeats them. He has to fight, and he pushed them back all the way to Aleppo, but he doesn't invade the city once again. He doesn't want to kill Muslims. He doesn't really want to start that up again. And he stays out in the city, sieges it, and they have another truce. We have Gumish Degan, who is the main emir in Damascus, and he doesn't like Salahuddin. He releases Reynal de Chatillon, right? Who was one of the Crusader leaders of Antioch, and let him go after he was been in prison for 15 years or so by Nur ad-Din. Now, this guy, as I mentioned last week, was the shaitan of the shaitans, and so he's the Abu Jahl of the error. And so we're gonna see what he's gonna end up doing today, and obviously it's quite sad what he does. And then finally gets Aleppo at the end. They hand over the keys to him, say, "You just take the city." 3 tries, and he finally takes the city. Same thing with Mosul. He does 3 tries, and he gets into Mosul also from this person named Izzuddin, his name, or Saifuddin, and they finally takes it over from him. And he was a Zankid also. And he was, they changed the city. They brought back drinking, and they brought back music, all these different things in there, which Salahuddin didn't approve. Nur ad-Din didn't approve that. And when he passed away, they brought all these things back. So he really wanted to make sure they go back to what Nur ad-Din, worked on. So we talked about, this is in the purple, this is the Ayyubid state that he had here. Let me see if my cursor could get there. I don't know if my cursor's up. Maybe this way. Yeah. Right. And so we have all the way from Tunis, which where the Ismailis kind of founded their empire, the Fatimid Empire. So he was able to conquer all that, all the way down to Mecca, Medina, and then going over to Yemen. So full control of the Red Sea. And that's going to be super significant to our dialogue today. So there's no Crusaders that are wandering here. They have this passage here. Okay, there's no Swiss Canal yet. I mean, obviously that's man-made. But, they can still, if they were able to come in here, they're able to bring, supplies to the Crusader states in Jerusalem here. So remember, Abyssinia down here was all Christian. And so the Crusaders really wanted them to join into the Crusades. So they could attack from the bottom and they could attack from the side. And so Ethiopia was trying to be an influence from Reynald and all these different other Crusader leaders. Okay. This is also just another, let me see. Oh my gosh. This is another just a color coding of the areas that was under the Ayyubid state that Salahuddin was able to control. So today we're going to go a little bit over, I just wanted to go over a little bit about the Ayyubid state. If you think about Islamic State today, like how would it be run, right? What would you do, okay? And I want to just kind of go over what Salahuddin implemented, right? As being the Sultan of this big empire that we just saw right here, right? How would it be ruled Islamically? How do you keep it in check? Make sure you don't lose it. Then we're going to talk about what happens before the Battle of Hattin, which is the main battle against the Crusaders. And that will be next week, inshallah. We'll cover that. I thought we'll cover it today, but we're not going to get to it. And then we'll talk about some things that were going on with Jerusalem and the leaders of that time. So you've been saying, let's talk about education, right? One thing Salahuddin was very keen on, mashallah, because he brought up in the deen, he brought up in memorizing of the Quran, doing Qiyam al-Layl, right? Having a base for his spirituality, especially as a leader, which is important for all of us, right? To have attachment to your masjid, to the Quran, your daily reading. If you don't, the wind will blow you far away. We have enough stuff in this country that will take you away, from social media to enough streaming channels you could download and everything else, if you will. And so he established a lot of Sunni schools, because he really wanted to make sure the people who are used to Ismaili, Shia, madhab beliefs and festivals, wanted to make sure that they were really understood of what is the Sunni teachings, and make sure there's educational systems there. So he established a school for the Hanafi and the Shafi'i madhab. He established the Madrasa al-Salahiyya, which this is still the building today. Obviously, it probably fixed it up, but that's still in Cairo today, that you can go and see that. Was a Shafi'i school. Even Imam Suyuti, about 400 years later, comes and calls it the crown of schools. Now, if you know who Imam Suyuti is, rahimahullah, then you'll understand what that statement means. This is a person that wrote probably 90 to 100 books on Islam. Fiqh, history, language, tafsir, you name it, he wrote it. Okay. There's a place he's from a place called Suyut, which is a city in Egypt. He made it, Salahuddin spent a lot of money building it, making it very big, creating its library, right? And if you really focus on education for your country, you're going to see that has ramifications, which hopefully our country needs to work a little bit on their education system also. Madrasa al-Mashhad al-Husseini. Now, there is a masjid, if you go to Cairo today, across the street from Masjid Azhar, right across the street is Masjid Hussein. Now, they believe that the head of Hussein is in that masjid. I've been there a couple of times. They have this big tomb that's there. Allahu Alam if it's there. I don't think it's there, but nonetheless. So the Ismailis obviously built that, right? And that was a very big Shia, place to worship. And some really funny, weird things go on there if you ever go there and visit it. But what he wanted to do, he put a school inside that masjid and in a room in that masjid to influence people to learn about the Sunni method. Purposely, he did that, right? Look at his thinking here. So he did that so the teachings of the Sunni school would be in there. People would learn. They could come by. They could hear lectures, etc. Their children could learn it. Madrasa al-Fadlihiyya was built by Qadi al-Fadl, which was his main qadis in Egypt that he had in his court, and he had a place where he would teach Shafi'i and Maliki madhabs. Imam Shatibi, if you know who Imam Shatibi is, you fall off your chair right now, because he was the main imam of the qira'at of the Quran, right? About the 10 qira'at, the rulings of it, how do you pronounce it, what are the different changes of the different recitations of it. He wrote a big poem called the Shatibiyya, which people memorize. Forget about the Quran. People memorize this. I don't know how much lines it is, maybe over 100 lines of just rules on how to recite the Quran. What they did back in the day, if they want to teach kids, and especially people, the rules of anything, fiqh, language, they made a poem from it. So you just memorize the poem and you got all the rules now. I remember when I went to Egypt, I'm like, no, this is not the American education system. We don't memorize like this. But the kids were just in class and just writing out lines of poetry. I'm sitting there dumbfounded, how am I understanding of this? But this is how they are, subhanAllah. But people have memorized that poem. I know people here, it's only maybe a handful of people I know in Southern California have memorized this poem, and they know all 10 qira'at of the Quran. Okay. Had over 100,000 books in its library. One thing we have lost in our Islamic centers here, you really don't have a library here in Masjid. Mm-hmm. The Shura room has it. If you go there, there's a ton of books there. Fortunately, most people have no idea what those books are, and no one really touches it. Yeah, myself, I spent a lot of time in that room. I barely touched myself. Everything now is online in PDFs. But anyhow, I'm ChatGPT too. But anyhow, we need to really start that trend back again, for our children to understand how great of Islamic libraries we all have. Book sets are like this volumes, 10 volume, 20 volume, 30 volume sets.
I mean, it's kind of the same timing where in Baghdad you would have all the teachings, but they're also focused on science.
That
So
too.
that's one thing Salahuddin was not so
On that
keen
thing,
on,
yes,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And that's the other
exactly.
thing that is missing
Right.
entirely in the Islamic world.
Right.
And badly missing.
And that will probably come later. Remember, his thing in front of him is this Shia influence.
Yeah.
So he's trying to battle it with a lot of Sunni books. Remember, he burnt all this. Yeah, on education and math and so forth. That's something that definitely he would work on. You would see that he would. I think I have it here. Maybe I don't. He built hospitals, and they don't have med schools, but you learn in the hospital, where doctors will teach people. Obviously, is just come and learn, see what I'm doing, and that's what it is. So there was a lot of hospitals that he built in Cairo, in Syria, and for people to learn education, men and women also, right? So he had that in mind too. The Dar Hadith, right? One of the first schools that was established just for Hadith narrations. Remember, Shia had their own collection of Hadith, and they have a lot of things we might not agree with. And so he put out that school there just to revive that, if you will, Hadith literature and coming and reading Hadith, if you will. 92 schools alone were built in Damascus, just in the city of Damascus. Okay, that were people were there that they could learn Quran and different things also. Quran schools for kids and orphans, all this, if you will, that he built.
So the question regarding, could you go back?
Yeah.
The Salahuddin ordered the Quran schools to be built for children, especially orphans.
Yeah.
So this concept in Pakistan, India, of teaching orphans only memorization of Quran and not explanation, did it come from?
Well, they spoke Arabic, so they would understand at least the wording of it. But tafsir is a whole nother science, yeah. But I read this too when I was going over there. I was thinking that maybe that is a way that an orphan child that didn't have a mom and dad, something that you put them into. Maybe I don't know why that direction went that way. I mean, I'm assuming they could be a trader, they could do something else, I guess so. I'm not too sure. But it was something special also for orphans also. Maybe I'm missing the point there. But that was something that they would do there also. And back in those days, those Quran schools also had housing, you know, that they would learn and they would sleep there also. And so maybe that's where the orphan part comes in there. They'll get the housing and can be able to get taken care of at the same time. Mecca and Medina. Now, remember, if you go back to this map there, you see that he had this whole, coastline, the western coastline of present-day Saudi Arabia, where that's called the Hijaz in what we call modern day, or even back in that day. So you have Mecca and Medina there. It's too small. I think this is Medina, this is Mecca. And so he was able to control all that also, okay? So he had to make sure, as being the Sultan in the area, that to make sure that you keep those routes safe, right? So Nuruddin al-Zinki, when he was alive, he would send troops to Medina just to protect the city. Now, this is one of the best things that we have in Islam, alhamdulillah. At least our enemies out there that don't really like us don't really focus on Mecca and Medina. They want to focus on Palestine, Kashmir, Iraq, where oil is at. Alhamdulillah, nobody, at least from now, hopefully they don't come to Mecca and Medina. Really not too much there, other than just to insult us. And if they would do that, the whole Muslim Ummah would hopefully wake up from their slumber, and it'll be a different thing. That has a special touch to the heart. As Gaza and Palestine is now waking up in the heart of all of us now, right? So he will.
It also has to do, in my opinion, with the convenient relationship that modern countries have with Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
You know, for many reasons. Oil and other businesses and what.
That's true. That's another angle.
Yes, so yes. Even Israel, I mean, let's face it. I mean, it might not be public that way, but they have relations.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah. Definitely. That's true. Yeah. The oil. So yeah, that's maybe the reason why they don't want to come in and bother us. Yeah. He sent troops Nuruddin when he was alive, even though we're talking about Salahuddin, but we'll go back to Nuruddin because Salahuddin learns from Nuruddin to build walls around the city. I kind of show an old picture here. This is not from his time. Obviously, there are no pictures during Salahuddin's time, but this is more from the Ottomans' time. Now you see there's a wall around the city, just as like forts will have a wall because the armies won't invade it. So he built a wall and dug wells for them. Salahuddin's father, Ayyub, right? Salahuddin, his name is Yusuf ibn Ayyub. Ayyub, the Ayyubid state, right? Comes from his dad's name. And he was, Nuruddin actually put him in charge of leading Hajj delegations from Mecca. He was a Hajj leader, okay? He worked for Dar es Salaam or something like that, right? So hopefully the Hajj package will go in like, $20,000. But so he would lead it from Damascus down to Mecca, obviously for the Hajj season, right? Imagine if you were his son and you watched your dad take Hajj groups. Well, that's an impact on your life, right? Which is really good to take our children to Hajj and to Umrah, at least, they understand where these locations are at. Shirku, remember Shirku? We know him as a one-eye warrior that just nobody wanted to meet him anywhere, right? Alhamdulillah, man. Allah blessed him that he was able to protect this ummah. But he also, he also led down Hajj groups. You never think that he had a spiritual side to it. So he's leading the groups, yeah, because he could defend the group. If anyone would come, you have the security there. So that kind of helps out also. Salahuddin also abolished taxes that was in the city that would, for people that when they come into Hajj, that there was taxes for people that would arrive at the ports in the Red Sea. He said there's no call for that. He wasn't against taxes, and we'll talk about taxes in a bit. But if it was illegitimate, it wasn't no reason for it, he would make sure that the people didn't have to pay that. That really wins the hearts of the people too. He would send 8,000 bushels of wheat. If you even know what a bushel is, I'm not too sure what a bushel. I'm assuming a big hunk of wheat, right? Down to Mecca and its hospitals there. Remember, Mecca doesn't grow anything. You guys been there? Rarely you will see much trees around that area, and so he would make sure that they'll have food for the pilgrims and to keep the city going. Endowments were made from the Hujjaj. Hujjaj are people that make Hajj. So to make sure that they have money of those who would help them out on their caravans. The routes became safer to the point they're almost going to stop Hajj, or at least the routes going to Hajj, because it was too dangerous. Now, I'm going to talk about that in a bit. Okay. So the Hujjaj had to change their routes because of the Crusaders that were plundering. So this right here is called Kirak. We're about to talk about the fortress of Kirak in a bit. It's in modern day Jordan. But if you're coming from Tunis or Morocco, Tripoli, present day Libya, and also Egypt, you would go here and then you would cross over here. They would cross right here. And then they'll go down to Mecca and Medina. So Kirak was a fort that the Crusaders had, that they would come down, and they knew the pilgrims' Hajj season. They knew it very well. And they would attack the pilgrims and kill them, right? Reynald de Chatillon was one of the main, shaitans that would do that, right? And he was in control of that fort, of the Kirak fort. I was able to find this. I don't know how true it is, but it looks nice. This was like the old school routes to Hajj. So you would see that from Cairo, they'll go through the Sinai Peninsula. No idea how they did that because it's very, very hot and dry there. And Gaza, they'll come down here, also Damascus, and then they'll join up with the Damascus line, I think almost like subway lines, and they will come down here and go there, or this one's a little bit higher, and Damascus will come down here also and go to, that's Medina there. Sorry, Medina's there, and then go down to Mecca, okay? There's also ship ports that'll go down this way also, okay? So Kirak was around here, if you remember that, if you go back to this picture there, right? And that's what Reynald de Chatillon, who was part of leading of that fort, would attack the trade routes. So Salahuddin knew that this had to be addressed. Okay? That's why the capture of the fortress of Kirak was so essential for him. Reynald de Chatillon attempted to attack Medina. We'll talk about that in a bit. This guy was a little bit, crazy to the extent. Economics, right? If you're in Egypt, one thing, if you ever go to Egypt, you have that Nile River, mashallah, it has barakah in it. And you could grow sugarcane, wheat, cotton is very big in Egypt now. I don't know if cotton was a thing back in the day also. Egyptian cotton is kind of world famous, for sheets and other things. All type of thing. This is like, if you go to Cairo right now, you'll see this. They have exactly like this. I think a lot of third world countries markets look like this. But his source of income for the state was he took money from the Fatimans that left a lot of gold and silver. So he inherited that. Zakat and jizya. Jizya is the tax that non-Muslims pay living in a Muslim state, right? Ransom of prisoners. They had a lot of Crusader prisoners that they would take, that they will get money from taking them out. Spoils of war. And this thing called iqta, right? From the word qata'a. Qata'a means like the cut in pieces. And what that is, and I'm going to go down to here. Where do I have it here? Oh, that's over here. I'll come back to that. It's on the next slide. Okay. So he focused on agriculture and irrigation to make sure that, levees were made so they could irrigate. There was no pipe system back in those days. You just open a levee and the water from the Nile will go into your field. Then you close it. And that's like a man-made pipe, that they would do. They still have that today. Egypt was a link between Europe and the East. So a lot of trade will go that route. He increased in the markets in Egypt and Syria, also specialized markets, which something was kind of new to me when I went to Egypt. You would go down the street and all it would be textile. Go down the street, all it would be pots and dishes. I always wondered, why would they put the guy selling a pot right next to another guy selling a pot? How do they must all fight with each other about where am I going to buy from? They're all selling the same pot. But that's what it calls specialized markets. Everyone will kind of sell in that one area. And go to the next street, it's all, like I said, clothing or something like that. You kind of have this in downtown LA. You have the garment district, right? You have flower district, but that's how it was there. I still don't understand how they don't fight with each other, but I guess they're friends and they work it out. But anyhow. So he did that, specialized markets that you go there. He made a silk market called Jamaloon, from the word Jamal, beautification, that only sells silk clothing. So he had the specialized markets that people would go and only buy certain things, right? Weapons, textile fabrics, abolished illegitimate taxes and levies, monopolized the market of metals and wood. Now he did that purposely because if people get their hand on metal and wood, they could sell it to the Crusaders and they could make their weapons. And so he didn't want that to do that. So he said, that stays within the government. The government controls that because you don't want that to get out, if you will. It's almost like if guns and bullets would be privatized by the government, right? You don't want other people getting it because it might go to the wrong hands. And so you don't want that. So back in that day, that was a smart move by him. Hospitals, really nothing to do with economics, but I kind of put that point there that he built hospitals there. The military, obviously a big thing, that he had focus on fortresses, making the walls around the city, right? Citadels, right? Which is kind of the main headquarters of inside the fortress that even extra fortified, nobody could get into that. He had engineers, music, and medical corps that were part of the army. So doctors had doctors will go there. Every, army has a medical corps. Engineers, because you have to build these catapults, right? So you don't carry them with you sometimes. You have to get there and the engineers cut wood down and start building. These called siege towers. So the wall's so high, so you just climb up this and then you jump over. Hopefully they don't burn it down or throw hot oil on you at the same time. But and then you also have ladders, basic ladders. You could jump over this wall. Okay, so you need people to build all those type of things as it's going there. While you're there on the battlefield. He had music, the drum corps. You ever wonder about marching bands, where they come from? A lot of it comes because they were in armies. And they will kind of you play really loud, the army gets pumped up. So he had a drum line that would beat, and the beats will change in terms of if we're going to march forward, right, left, or we're retreating. So people will know if they hear different things, then you know that it's a sign. You don't have walkie-talkies over there. You can't tell the general, hey, move to the right, move to the left. And also if you make enough noise, it kind of scares the enemy, right? And they will do it at nighttime too, so the Crusaders couldn't sleep. So make a bunch of noise so they can't sleep in their tents. And so you're going to see that's going to happen in the Battle of Hattin. This thing called Iqta, what it was is that anytime Salahuddin will come into a town and take over, capture a fortress or capture a town, Hama, and these different places, Damascus, Baalbek, all these different areas, he would divide some of that land up of agriculture, give it to a soldier or a emir or a official in the army, and they will take taxes from that land, use it for their own troop, and send some back to the central government. Okay, so it benefits them because they're eating from their own family, they're supporting their soldiers, so they're going to take care of it. And then the central government gets money back. And so but they don't own the land, different than the Europeans will actually give this to their soldiers. But the army still owns it. And it was kind of smart, Salahuddin did that. So they don't pass it on to their son, their daughter, and they want to make their own city from it. And now have a coup going on now because they have their own town. right? So he said, no, the Ayyubid state still owns the land there. We could take it anytime we want, but you send us some money back. You could tax on the farming, product from it, and that's how you support the government. That's how you support the army. So, I think I put a lot of things here. He also built a navy, which is a very important. Remember that Red Sea, right? And so also the Crusaders had a lot of army. Remember, they're coming from Italy and Rome and this area, bringing supplies to Jerusalem. And if you don't have an army to kind of stop that, then you're going to keep on getting supplies, and that's going to hurt you. So he really focused. He made a whole section of the Navy. Never really had it before. That to learn how to build ships, to have seamen, right? People that would row also, all these different type of dynamics of how to put your sails up and so forth. So you can stop the Crusaders and when they start coming down, because Reynald Chatillon, this guy, he wanted to take over the Red Sea. So what he did, if you guys remember Kerak over here, there's no sea there. What he did, he built ships, put it on camels, bring it down to this place here, okay, called the Gulf of Aqaba, put it in the ocean, and then start coming down, try to attack Medina and the Muslims. When he came down, then the Muslims had never seen Crusader ships ever in their life in this area. Want to know how the heck did they come in here? And that's what he did. Salahuddin, the same thing. They would build their ships here, bring it down the Swiss on the Gulf of the Swiss, and bring down their ships here too. Also, right, that was very important. So in 1182, he did that to try to get control, and he started sinking a lot of Muslim ships there because they had no idea what these Crusader ships were. They never seen them before. Okay, and so he would go ahead and he would do a lot of those type of things. We're going to go back to that in a bit. Let's talk about. If you remember from last class, we stopped at 1187, but I'm going to go back because there's so many things going on. We're in Mosul, now we're going back over here to Egypt, where a lot of things were going on. In 1180, Baldwin IV, we call him the leopard king because he had leprosy, and he would wear this mask because you don't want to see his skin underneath. It would be quite, not very pleasing to look at because it's eating at his skin and this flesh look and this pus coming out. So he would wear almost like a full, gloves and everything. And so what happened is that he made Baldwin IV, who was born with leprosy, had it his whole life. Everyone knew that he's just dying as he's being a king, but he's a royal family, can't really do too much, if you will. He made a truce with Salahuddin because he knew Salahuddin was getting very big. Jerusalem was kind of, he was young. And he took, I think he took the king around like 8 years old or 11 years old or something like that, right? And so he made a truce to try with Salahuddin just to make sure that he's safe from Salahuddin's attack. So they're building up their own self here. Salahuddin gladly signs it because he's focused on Aleppo and Mosul. It was set for 2 years. Raymond II, the Count of Tripoli, also sends a truce with Salahuddin. So Salahuddin has a lot of, doesn't have to worry about the Crusaders attacking him. He could focus on Aleppo and Mosul, which he took, which we all remember from last week. But Kerak was under this guy, which that's not his real picture, but nonetheless, Reynald de Chatillon, right? And even though this area of Kerak falls under the kingdom of Jerusalem, so he should follow the truce that Baldwin IV has with Salahuddin, that we don't attack the Muslims, we don't attack their pilgrim routes. We leave them alone. He's supposed to follow that, but he really doesn't care about anything really too much. Okay, so he would have his Templars and Hospitallers, and we'll talk about them a little bit in the next week. What Salahuddin does with these individuals in the Crusader army, and who are they? They were more the higher knights in the army, and they're also the more zealous, didn't really follow rules ones, if you will, okay, in terms of honorary and chivalry and so forth. But Reynald had his own section of those, which the Crusaders know. He was known for plundering, robbing people, treachery. He planned to attack Medina. This is what he said. He said, "I'm going to go to Medina, take the body of your prophet, and bring it back to Kerak. And you guys will have to pay me to come and visit him." This is how crazy he was. He's all, I'm gonna go to Medina, I'm gonna dig the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And do this, right? He doesn't know what's gonna in store for him, but nonetheless, this is what his thoughts were. He hated Muslims like he hated Muslims. Okay, right. And so he will just keep on killing the caravans coming from Damascus down to Medina. Salahuddin, he's in Mosul, right? Remember, he was really busy there. And Aleppo. He heard about this. It's hard to kind of run back and forth. You don't have a plane. So he tells his brother that's in Damascus, in Egypt, get the army ready, get your navy ready, because he's sending boats in the Red Sea to go down to Medina. Okay. And that's what this guy does, right? So he ordered trees, he built ships, put them in pieces, got them down to the Gulf of Aqaba, sent armies to Tabuk, if you guys remember the Battle of Tabuk from the Sirah, and so that no army could come down north, will be blocked there. So he could bring his ships there and just go right through, if you will. You don't have to go through the desert, a little bit easier for them. Okay. He had 16 ships that he put in the waters there. The Muslims launched their ships. Remember, it's good to have a navy. That's why Salahuddin worked on this. The Crusaders were burnt 16 of the Muslim ships that were carrying Hujjaj, which are people that are going to make Hajj, right? Killed them, drowned them, imprisoned them, took their money, right? All these different things. This is making Salahuddin extremely angry, right? He sends his brother to go help. His name was Hussam ad-Din Lu'lu. Lu'lu in Arabic means pearl, but sometimes guys have that name. Anyhow. So his name was Hussam ad-Din Lu'lu, which constructed the ships, carried out to the Gulf of Suez, right? Was able to stop Reynal's army. Reynal gets away though. They attack their ships, they take it over, right? They capture 170 crusaders, bring them back to Alexandria, right? And execute them over there. Send some down to Mina, Mecca, and execute them over there to let the people know that we are protecting your routes. He killed a lot of pilgrims. If you're in Hajj, you're like, how am I going to get back home? You know what I mean? If you're going to go back up north. So they did that to show them that, you know, we're here to save you. We're here to help you, if you will. So Mecca and Medina was saved by this. No one else is doing anything. The rest of the Ummah is sleeping. Salahuddin owned a lot of it. But if he didn't have his brother come down with that navy, who knows what would happen to Mecca and Medina, right? This is one of the main, attacks that we have never seen, even after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, from a non-Muslim army. Fortunately, there were other Muslim armies that were fighting amongst each other. So he was able to stop that. Mecca and Medina was saved. They were able to capture their ships, and they were able to take control of the Red Sea back again. Sure.
No.
Okay. He made a vow after this. He said, after this, I will personally going to kill Reynal Shahtian, right? They call him Arnat. This is the Arabs who will call him the word Arnat. But anyhow, that this was my personal thing. I will do it from my own hands. That's how much it aggravated him. He felt sick a little bit, and he wasn't able to go and get down and actually fight himself. Rare times Salahuddin actually felt sick, right? He actually wanted to make Hajj in 1184, but he couldn't make it because of illnesses. He never made it to Hajj. Allah had him busy with other things, right? Inshallah, he still gets the reward, hopefully, for that intention, but he was doing a lot of other things, if you will. Salahuddin takes this very serious. He says, you know what? I'm going to go to Kerak. Kerak is causing too much Reynal Shahtian is killing Muslims left and right. This is their fortress. I think I showed this picture before. This is still there today in Jordan. This is a street. You're standing there, you'll be a dot. If you're thinking to come up to the fortress, you probably won't make it. Look how they purposely made this very slick, where you will slide down there, or they'll put hot oil down there on you. They will shoot arrows on you. How would you be able to transgress this, if you will, right? It's on a really high pillar, right? Salahuddin says, I'm going to go there. He gets an army, goes to Kerak, leads a siege against the city. Look at Salahuddin. Even though he hates Reynal for what he did and wants to kill him, Reynal Shahtian is in the fortress. It's in the city. A messenger comes out to Salahuddin. So, yeah, Salahuddin, we know you're here. You don't like us. You're here to siege us. And you want to take over our fort. But there's a wedding going on inside. on this portion of the city. Can you not throw your catapults and rocks of this area and only focus on this area? What do you think Salahuddin said? Yeah, okay, I'll do it. He's like, I don't want to bother your wedding ceremony. So he said, okay. And he goes and he starts shooting at this area and this other, right? So super strange how things work out, right? You know, he's trying to get a guy that kills innocent Muslims that are going to Hajj. And Salahuddin will take the message and say, you know what, okay, tells his army, don't aim this way, aim this way. We're still going to lay siege, but we're going to do it. So he's trying to get into this fort, throwing rocks at it, trying to bombard it. What happens is that that Baldwin IV from Jerusalem shows up with his army. Remember, there's supposed to be a truce. Remember that? But Salahuddin says Reynald is breaking the truce by killing these pilgrims. And Baldwin, you're not doing anything to protect it. You're slapping his hand and he's not listening to you. So he went there to lay siege, but Baldwin comes with the army from Jerusalem. They come out and they have this famous scene in the movie Kingdom of Heaven where they meet Salahuddin and Baldwin IV. Baldwin IV says, Salahuddin, just leave. If you don't leave, multiple people are going to die here. And he's cornered. Remember, he had people in Kerak, the Crusaders there, and he has a Jerusalem army that's sandwiching him. Salahuddin says, okay, Baldwin, Baldwin's actually wasn't that bad of a, it wasn't like killing innocent Muslims, okay? He's still a Crusader, nonetheless. He said, okay, and he agrees to him that we'll leave. Both of us will leave. And Salahuddin saw that he was dying because he was barely standing up on his horse. Salahuddin said, I'll send my doctors to look at you. This is Salahuddin. SubhanAllah. This sometimes you kind of wonder, but SubhanAllah, this is what his character was, right? So they both withdraw. Salahuddin Baldwin agreed to both leave. Reynal de Chatillon is laughing somewhere in the fortress that he saved. Baldwin tells Salahuddin, I will reprimand him for what he did. Just leave it up to me. Salahuddin knows that you're probably not going to do anything. Baldwin goes into the fortress. Reynal comes out. He's crying on his knees. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have killed the pilgrims. And all that Baldwin does, and you've seen in the movie too, like slaps him in the face. But he's still there and walks away. You know what I mean? So, of course, he's lying. He doesn't really care too much about what's happening there. Okay. So, he doesn't get to break into Kerak, Salahuddin. We're going to have to wait about in 1187 that after the siege of Jerusalem, after he captured Jerusalem, where do you think the first place he goes to? Kerak, right? And so that's when he will take over Kerak. We'll leave that for next week, right? But right now, we're stuck in 1183 right now. So this will happen about 4 years later. He would finally take over this fort, and this will become a Muslim fort. Right? What's happening in Jerusalem? I'm going to talk a lot really fast. This is my last slide here. Okay. This is Jerusalem from an aerial shot. You see Masjid al-Aqsa, that's here. You can see that there has a slope here. It's not like Kerak, the fortress of Kerak, but it's still kind of hard to get here. You have to come around. It's still like on a high area here, if you will. So what's happening is there, Baldwin the Fourth, remember he has leprosy, he's dying. He finally passes away at the age 24. Okay, in 1185. This was 1183. So 2 years later, Baldwin dies. Baldwin the Fifth, who is only 7 years old, comes into power now. So Jerusalem is in a whole lot of problems now. See how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made everything? That he was able to get Aleppo, Mosul, Egypt, and then Jerusalem has a 7-year-old that's running it. It's all the pieces are just kind of fitting together for Salahuddin to make the next move, right? Allah subhanahu just kind of facilitates that for him. It means it's going to be easy, it's going to be easy, but still, it's there, if you will. Baldwin the Fifth dies the next year. Right? What do you think? Poison. Right? It's almost good to think about that. If someone dies that young, something happened. Right? He's a 7-year-old. You have a bunch of 40-year-old people that have been waiting to take power. They don't want a little 7-year-old kid ruling over them to give him something to drink, and he dies. Okay. So that's the end of the Baldwin. They're all gone now. Okay. So no more of those Baldwins are all gone. Who takes over from there? They start fighting about Jerusalem. That's great. We love when they fight over amongst themselves. We're worried about Muslims fighting amongst each other. That's good when they fight good, right? So let them fight over who's going to be the next leader. Um, um, the daughter of Al-Mulk. Remember Al-Mulk? You haven't heard his name in a long time, right? Remember, he was kept on attacking Egypt over and over and over again, right? And so his daughter, Siblia, that she takes over as the leader, and she's married to this guy named Guy de Lission. I don't know, my French is not that great, but anyhow, Guy's not the very smartest guy in the world. He's not really a military, general, but he takes over now, right? And the daughter Almeric are there. They're married together. They come into power. So they're not part of the royal family directly, even though that she's a sister of Baldwin, right? There's no male to take over. So people in Jerusalem is kind of looking for a leader, right? And we're going to introduce this character next week called Balian, who's one of the Templar or Hospitallers that come in and take leadership of Jerusalem. If you watch the movie, you know who he is. What is that Reynal knows no one in Jerusalem is really ruling, that they could kind of control him. Baldwin's gone, right? You have a husband and wife that's taken over. People don't respect him. Reynal doesn't respect him. Reynal continues to do what he does, right? He kept on killing Muslims, and pilgrims are going down there, right? He doesn't keep his word. He doesn't care about no truce. So what is Salahuddin going to do? Okay. Salahuddin's a military genius. Okay. So what he does, he's like, you know what? I can't get this guy to go back to the map here. Kirak is over here. Let me get my mouse right over here. What he's going to do is go over to this place called this other city where I'm forgetting the name. It was right on my tip of my tongue. Tiberias. And he was going to go there and siege it because Raymond, if you guys remember Raymond II, he was the Count of Tripoli. His wife is there. And so Salahuddin is saying, you know what? I will attack this, hoping that Reynal and will want to come and kill me and come over there, and I could pull him over there and I could trap him and ambush him. So we'll talk about that next week, what kind of plan he does. Because he knows that this fortress here is just not gonna, it's just a little bit hard to he already sieged it for like 3 times already. It didn't really work out, okay? So he's trying to pull him out of this fort to get him to go somewhere else. And that's what he called the Battle of Hattin in 1187. That's where we're gonna end up next week, inshallah ta'ala. We'll have a couple more minutes here. And we'll go over that, inshallah ta'ala, and that would be the main battle between them and the Crusaders. Right after that, Salahuddin just walks over to Jerusalem. Well, he goes on the coast and starts, taking over a bunch of cities. Then he goes to Jerusalem, and there's not much of a leader in Jerusalem. Remember, people are leading his husband and wife that no one really respects too much. And there's a battle there, but he was able to take over Masjid Aqsa or Jerusalem and reclaim Masjid Aqsa and the holy sites there. So we'll talk about that next week.
You confirmed regarding the Nuruddin. Remember I told you about the prophet?
Prophet, yeah.
Saw a prophet in his dream.
I didn't see it from all that I read on the book, at least from Dr. Salabi's book. I did not see that in that book. I could have missed it. It's 3 volumes. But I didn't see that, even though there is. What was the dream again? Tell me though, that he came out and he saw him and
he saw the prophet in his dream that somebody's coming, some Jews are coming to, like plunder or whatever,
okay.
Grave and all that. So what do you call it? What is that? Lead. So kind of lead around the prophet's grave.
Oh, that is true. There is lead around his grave.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that sparked it though. There is incidents where they had dreams. I don't know if it was Nuruddin or others that had dreams and they saw something like we should do this, we should do that. But I didn't remember if it was Nuruddin though in the book though. But it's true that there's a lead covering over the Prophet's grave though. Yeah. I think that was also because of flooding and other things that they did to make sure, but also just protection.
Mhm.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Cool. Anything else? Questions? A lot of information.
This is during the Abbasid Empire Caliphate as well.
Yeah, they're there, but they're kind of just a name on paper. They're not really.
Were they still fighting on that side, like amongst themselves, or how come they weren't like in very much established, like in Baghdad?
Yeah, if you look here, this is where Baghdad's at. So it still says the Abbasid Caliphate, but they don't really have much area, even though the Khalifa here gives authority to Salahuddin to run these lands. Salahuddin's not saying I'm the new Khalifa. He probably could have done it and nobody would have done anything. But you know, on paper, this is all Abbasid land, but he's under them in terms of running it. I guess Salahuddin didn't really care too much about this name on paper thing, if you will, that I'm the Khalifa. He just wanted to make sure that I was not going to get split from the Zengids after Nuruddin passed away. They started doing different things that that Nuruddin didn't teach. So that's why he really went after that. And maybe because Baghdad was too far. I don't know why Salahuddin didn't go over here and try to take it over. I don't think he really cared too much. His main thing was always this. Right? That's what's his focus in his life. Take one goal, don't get the sidetrack. But to get that, you're going to have to unite around these areas here, and then you get it. So
it's the same with the West, with the Seljuk, right? I mean, they existed, but they never really had bothered each other.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they have that.
I see on this side Seljuk on the
modern
Turkey.
Right. I guess maybe like the United Kingdom. I don't know how that works too. If on Ireland and Scotland, I guess it's under the United Kingdom. I don't know who.
Different countries, I think.
They're different countries, but it's still like one united. I don't know how that works, but I think I don't know.
The United Kingdom is only it's Northern Ireland,
Wales,
Scotland, and England.
Yeah.
I think Ireland is separate.
Oh, they're separate. Oh, that would probably make sense.
Euro and everything.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty much their own.
Got you.
Yeah.
Trying to get an example of that. Yeah, of how they just more on paper, but not necessarily.
Regarding this concept of orphans learning just Arabic, and no understanding of the Quran, was this like
that's probably a
plan?
No, I think it's more Desi though, because like I mentioned, if you're in Egypt, you understood Arabic because that's the language of the land.
Then trickle down to the subcontinent.
Well, subcontinents are all different because that's just not their mother tongue, so.
The masajids or the yatim khanas, they have complete memorization of the Quran, like stupid people there. The kids are just
Yeah. I understand anything,
something like that.
I think
And what is the Quran about?
But they also did tough tier classes.
they have tough cert classes, But the thing is, I think it's more, I don't think that was purposely done. I think that's just a language thing that all of us in this room, we're all non-Arabs here, we all have to deal with. Is that we could memorize Quran, but we might not understand one word or two words of it. That is on us to now to either master the language or read books on what I did memorize, and that's going to be.
Experience that they would just make them memorize Quran, and if there is a death, they would send those kids, orphans, to their houses where people would read Quran, and those kids were like paid to read Quran.
Interesting. Well, they have that. They always have that, like imam or someone will go down and read Quran on someone's death. But yeah, I don't think that was purposely done where they don't learn the meaning of it. I don't think that. I don't know too much about Pakistan, but at least here, this. Yeah. I just know that this was something that they gave them. Yeah, I'm not too sure if there's a connection between the two. Yeah. Anyhow, there's no other questions or anything. Inshallah ta'ala, hopefully you're able to get all these dates down. You have a question? Iqta. So Iqta is where we said that this is the distributing of land that I think it have, of land that that Salahuddin will give to the soldiers and the leader of the army, and they will take tax from it, and they'll give it back to the state, and they'll use it to fund their military. That's it. Yeah. Dr. Siddiq, inshallah, and may Allah bless all of you. Inshallah, we'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry, let's close up here.